That didn't go so well. Hi, everybody. It's Allison from Allykatkreations. How are you? Please like, share, and subscribe to my channel if you have yet to do so. And if you get anything from my work, a connect, a dot, an epiphany, a mind explosion, or a moment, a new book to read, a new author to explore, consider supporting my work. All the links are at the bottom of the description. And if you're interested in pyramids, this is a baby. This is a small pyramid. You can check out my website at AllyKatzkreations211.com. I'm going to do a few of these before I post them on the website. And that's just a portfolio. But these are card holders. I got a few more solid ones, gem ones. If you're interested in those, I just got a new mold to make actual business cards like you could stack. So I'm going to test that out today. Excited. So please check out my website. If you're interested in anything, please email me. I work with people financially. I'm not here to rip anybody off. I'm just here to try to make a living. On the news, work, physical job front, finally getting recommended to be hired. I don't know what the hell that means. Just like an interview, like a job fair here in Indiana is an interview for a job. It's just the wording around here is a little different and wonky. So hopefully I get the job. It sounds like I did. So I'm excited. That should start in August or a little before that to start. Crossing my fingers because things are very heavily expensive. We're finally hitting it here in Indiana where things are going up a lot in pricing. And yeah, I don't know what to do. So hopefully this comes through sooner than later. Today I'll be reading from The Secret Teachers of All Ages, Manly P. Hall, FreeMasonic Symbolism. This should be good. Before I start, I want to thank everybody. I don't know who watches all my videos or not. I want to thank everybody for the support and the love when Morgan Cat passed away. Reason why a lot of my videos have been offset. It's taken a lot, and the last couple of days, even though I got a video here and there, it's not a reading, it's just me yapping. I had to rearrange my house and deep clean since she did bleed heavily in some spots. I had to go in and do some deep cleaning. So that was like the last day or two. And then I'm finding out that the town I live in has like code control. So if your grass is a certain height, you have too many weeds, like they're very particular here, which I think is a good thing because some people just let shit look bad. But if you don't cut your grass to a certain length, then I had to do that yesterday, and my lawnmower is almost broken. I'm convinced something is wrong with it. So yeah, the daily struggles of life. I don't choose to feed into any of the BS, but you still have to be here. I just wanted to give my appreciation to everybody who sent me love and support. Not a hard thing. It's just getting used to the adjustment. Her energy's already here. I feel her. It's just not physically. So I'm getting used to a lot of that stuff. And happy May 1st. Happy May Day, Beltane, if you are celebrating that, or Solwayne, if you're on the other side of the imaginary line that shouldn't exist. Fun times. This should be quite interesting. Might be able to hold up some of these pictures. We'll give a gander. And for those of you who are new to my channel, I have projection issues. I'm also dyslexic. So before you get triggered, oh my gosh, this chick breathe, and click away if you can't handle someone just reading. I'm not a perfectionist. I am not Amazon audiobook. I'm none of that. In several early Masonic manuscripts, for example, the Harleian, Sloane, Lansdowne, and Edinburgh Kilwinning, it is stated that the craft of initiated builders existed before the deluge, and that its members were employed in the building of the Tower of Babel. A Masonic constitution dated 1701 gives the following naive account of the origin of the sciences, arts, and crafts from which the major part of Masonic symbolism is derived. Quote, how this worthy science was first begun, I shall tell. Before Noah's flood, there was a man called Lamech, as it was written in the 4th chapter of Genesis. I want to say Genesis, possibly. It's just shortened. And this Lamech had 2 wives. The one was called Ada and the other Zillah. For the first wife, Ada, he got 2 sons, and one called Jabal and the other one Jubal, if I'm pronouncing that right. And by the other wife, Zillah, he got a son and a daughter, and the 4 children found the beginning of all crafts in the world. This Jabal was the elder son, and he found the craft of geometric, and he parted flocks as of sheep and lambs in the field, and first wrought houses of stone and tree, as it is noted in the chapter aforesaid. And his brother Jabal found the craft of music, the songs, organs, and harp. The third brother, Tubal-Cain, found out smith's craft to work iron and steel, and their sister, Nama, found out the art of weaving. These children did know that God would take vengeance for a sin, either by fire or water. Therefore, they wrote these sciences, which they have found in the 2 pillars of stone, that they might be found after the flood. The one sold was called marble, cannot burn with fire, and the other was laterus, brass, that cannot drown in the water. The author of this constitution thereupon declares that one of these pillars was later discovered by Hermes, who communicated to mankind the secrets thereon inscribed. In his Antiquities of the Jews, Josephus writes that Adam had forewarned his descendants that a sinful humanity would be destroyed by a deluge. In order to preserve their science and philosophy, the children of Seth therefore raised 2 pillars, one of brick and the other of stone, on which was inscribed the keys to their knowledge. The patriarch Enoch, whose name means the initiator, is evidently a personification of the sun, since he lived 365 years. He also constructed an underground temple consisting of 9 vaults, one beneath the other, placing in the deepest vault, a triangular tablet of gold bearing upon it the absolute and infallible name of deity. According to some accounts, Enoch made 2 golden deltas. The larger he placed upon the white crucible altar in the lowest vault, and the smaller he gave into the keeping of his son, Methuselah, who did the actual construction work of the brick chambers according to the pattern revealed to his father by the Most High. In the form and arrangements of these vaults, Enoch epitomized the 9 spheres of the ancient mysteries and the 9 sacred strata of the earth, through which the initiate must pass to reaching the flaming spirit dwelling in its central core. According to FreeMasonic Symbolism, Enoch, fearing that all knowledge of the sacred mysteries would be lost at the time of the deluge, erected the 2 columns mentioned in the quotation. Upon the metal column, in appropriate allegorical symbols, he engraved the secret teachings, and upon the marble column placed an inscription stating that a short distance away a priceless treasure would be discovered in a subterranean vault. After having this faithfully completed his labor, Enoch was translated from the brow of Mount Moriah. In time, the location of the secret vaults was lost. But after the lapse of ages, there come another builder, an initiate after the order of Enoch. And he, while laying the foundation for another temple to the great architect of the universe, discovered the long-lost vaults and the secrets contained within. Interesting there. John Leyland was appointed by King Henry VIII to go through the archives of the various religious institutions dissolved by the king and removed for preservation any books or manuscripts of an important character. Among the documents copied by Leyland was a series of questions and answers concerning the mystery of Masonic writing by King Henry the Fourth. Up the 6th. See, my brain is not working today. I do apologize. I was squirrely yesterday. In answer to the question, how many masonry into England, the document states that Peter Grower, a Grecan, traveled for knowledge in Egypt, Syria, and every land where the Phoenicians had planted masonry, winning entrance in all lodges of masons. He learned much and returning dwelt in Greater Greece. He became renowned for his wisdom, formed a great lodge at Groton, and made many masons, some of whom journeyed in France, spreading masonry there. From France, into the course of time, the order passed into England. To this superficial student of the subject, it must be evident that the name of Peter Grower, the Grecan, is merely an angelicized form of Pythagoras. Consequently, Groton, where he formed his lodge, is easily identified with Croton. I don't know who wrote this section, but my gosh. Crotona. A link is thus established between the philosophic mysteries of Greece and medieval Freemasonry. In his notes on King Henry's questions and answers, William Preston enlarges upon the vow of secrecy as it was practiced by the ancient initiates. On the authority of Pliny, he describes how, I can never get this name, Anaxagoras, having been imprisoned in order to extort from him some of the secrets with which he had been entrusted, bit out his own tongue and threw it in the face of Nicocreon, the tyrant of Cyprus. Preston adds that the Athenians revered a brazen statue that was represented without a tongue to denote the sanctity with which they regard their oath-bound secrets. It is also noteworthy that, according to King Henry's manuscript, Masonry had its origin in the East and was carrier of the arts, sciences of civilization to the primitive humanity of the Western nations. Conspicuous among the symbols of Freemasonry are the 7 liberal arts and sciences. By grammar, man is taught to express in noble and adequate language his innermost thoughts and ideals. By rhetoric, he is enabled to conceal his ideals under the protecting cover of ambiguous language and figures of speech. By logic, he is trained in the organization of the intellectual faculties with which he has been endowed. By arithmetic, he not only is instructed in the mystery of universal order, but also gains the key to multitude, magnitude, and proportion. By geometry, he is inducted into the mathematics of form, the harmony and rhythm of angles, and the philosophy of laws of celestial harmonics and that harmony and rhythm are all pervading. By astronomy, he gains an understanding of the immensities of time and space, of the proper relationship between himself and the universe, and of the awesomeness of the unknown power which is derived the countless stars of the firmament through illimitable space. Equipped with knowledge conferred by familiarity with the liberal arts and sciences, the studious Freemason therefore finds himself confronted by few problems with which he cannot escape and cope. The dynastic architects. The most celebrated of the ancient fraternities of artisans was that of the Dionysic architects. This organization was composed exclusively of initiates of the Bacchus Dionysos cult. It was peculiarly consecrated to the science of building and the art of decoration, acclaimed as being the custodians of a secret and sacred knowledge of architects. Its members were entrusted with the design and erection of public buildings and monuments. The superlative excellence of their handiwork elevated the members of the guild to a position of surpassing dignity. They were regarded as master craftsmen of the earth. Because of the first dances held in honor of the Dionysos, he was considered the founder and patron of the theater, and the Dionysians specialized in the construction of buildings adapted for the presentation of dramatic performances. In the circular or semicircular orchestra, they invariably erected an altar of Dionysus, and the rites of the mysteries usually formed the motif of the tragedies and comedies enacted. It is related of Shelus. Hang on, this is going to piss me off. Aeschylus. Not the way it's spelled. The famous Greek poet that while appearing in one of his own plays, he was suspected by a mob of angry spectators of revealing one of the profound secrets of the mysteries and was forced to seek refuge at the altar of Dionysos. So carefully did the dynastic architects safeguard the secrets of their craft that only fragmentary records exist of their esoteric teachings. John A. Weiss thus sums up the major data available concerning the order. They made their appearance certainly not later than 1000 BC and appeared to have enjoyed particular privileges and immunities. They also possessed secret means of recognition and with bound together by special ties only known to themselves. The richer of this fraternity were bound to provide for the poorer brethren. They were divided into communities governed by a master and wardens and called connected houses. They held a grand festival annually and were held in high esteem. Their ceremonials were regarded as sacred. It has been claimed that Solomon, at the instance of Hiram, king of Tyre, employed them at his temple and palaces. They were also employed at the construction of the temple of Diana at Ephesus. They had means of intercommunication all over then known world, and from them doubtless sprang the guilds of the traveling masons known in the Middle Ages. The fraternity of the Dionysic architects spread throughout all of Asia Minor, even reaching Egypt and India. They established themselves in nearly all the countries bordering on the Mediterranean, and with the rise of the Roman Empire found their way into Central Europe and even into England. The most stately and enduring buildings in Constantinople, Rhodes, Athens, and Rome were erected by these inspired craftsmen. One of the most illustrious of their number was, here we go again, sorry, Vitruvius, another one that you can't just sit there to pronounce properly, gives several hints as to the philosophy underlying the Dionysic concept of the principle of symmetry applied to the science of architecture as derived from a consideration of proportions established by nature between the parts and members of the human body. The following extract from Vitruvius on the subject of symmetry is represented. The design of temple depends on symmetry, the principles of which must be carefully observed by the architect. They are due to the proportion in something Greek. Proportion is a correspondence among the measures of the members of an entire work and of the whole to a certain part selected as standard. From this result the principles of symmetry. Without symmetry and proportion, there can be no principles in the design of any temple. That is, if there is no precise relation between the members, as in the case of those of a well-shaped man. For the human body is so designed by nature that the face, from the chin to the top of the forehead and the lowest roots of the hair, is a 10th part of the whole height. The open hand from the wrist to the tip of the middle finger is just the same. The head from the chin to the crown is an 1/8, and with the neck and shoulder from the top of the breast to the lowest roots of the hair is 6. From the middle of the breast to the summit of the crown is a 1/4. If we take the height of the face itself, the distance from the bottom of the chin to the underside of the nostrils, and from that point to a line between the eyebrows, is the same. From there to the lowest roots of the hair is also a 1/3, comprising the forehead. The length of the foot is 1/6 of the height of the body of the forearm. 1/4, and the breadth of the breast is also 1/4. The other members, too, have their own symmetrical proportions, and it was by employing them that the famous painters and sculptors of antiquity obtained to great and endless renown. The edifices raised by the dynastic builders were indeed sermons in stone, though unable to comprehend fully the cosmic principles thus embodied in these masterpieces of human ingenuity and industry. Even the uninitiated were invariably overwhelmed by the sense of majesty and symmetry resulting from the perfect coordination of pillars, spans, arches, and domes. By variations in the details of size. Sorry about that. I don't know if you heard the doorbell ringing. I had a package sent to me, and thank you, Lynn. If you watch this, she did some handmade prints. She does the sewing machine very well, and my heart is very touched, so thank you. I don't know where I left off because that was very abrupt. So we're going to start by here. By variations in the details of size, material, type, arrangement, orientation, and color, these inspired builders believed it is possible to provoke in the nature of the onlooker certain distinct mental and emotional reactions. Sorry, Vitruvius, for example, describes the disposition of bronze vases about a room so as to produce certain definite changes in the tone and quality of the human voice. In like manner, each chamber in the mysteries through which the candidates pass had its own peculiar acoustics. This in one chamber, the voice of the priest was amplified until his words caused the very room to vibrate, while in another the voice was diminished and softened to such a degree that it sounded like the distant tinkling of silver bells. Again, in some of the underground passages, the candidate was apparently bereft of the power of speech, for though he shouted at the top of his voice, not even a whisper was audible to his ears. After progressing a few feet, however, he would discover that his softened sigh would be re-echoed 100 times. The supreme ambition of the dynastic architects was the construction of buildings which would create distinct impressions consistent with the purpose for which the structure itself was designed. In common with the Pythagoreans, they believed it possible by combinations of straight lines and curves to induce any desired mental attitude or emotion. They labored, therefore, to the end of producing a building perfectly harmonious with the structure of the universe itself. They may have even believed that an edifice so constructed because it was in no respect at variance with any existing reality would not be subject to dissolution, but would endure throughout the span of mortal time. As a logical deduction from their philosophic trend of thought, such a building in rapport with cosmos would also have become an oracle. Certain early works on magical philosophy hint that the Ark of the Covenant was ocular in character because of the specifically prepared chambers in its interior. These, by their shape and arrangement, were so attuned to the vibrations of the invisible world that they caught and amplified the voices of the ages imprinted upon and eternally existed in the substance of the astral light. Unskilled in these ancient subletities of their profession, modern architects often create architectural absurdities, which would cause their creators to blush with shame did they comprehend their actual symbolic import. Thus, phallic emblems are strewn in profusion among the adornments of banks, office buildings, and department stores. Christian churches also may be surmounted with Brahmin or Mohammedan domes, or be designed in a style suitable for a Jewish synagogue or a Greek temple to Pluto. These incongruities may be considered trivial in importance by the modern designer, but to the trained psychologist, the purpose for which a building was erected is frustrated in large measure by the presence of such architectural discordances. I don't know why I can't remember how to get this name. We're going to just say it. Vitruvius thus defines the principle of property as conceived and applied by the Dionysians. So I'm going to put a pause right here. I just got channeled a thought. I had a really good morning and a really good day, and I'm like soaring in a higher vibratory state and frequency. Because I'm asking, like, why is my brain shut off right now? Like, why am I not projecting the right what's going on? Like, this is annoying and frustrating for me, and I know it is for you guys. I'm just not at the level of this frequency of reading, so I do apologize. I didn't know such a thing existed. It apparently does. So I'm going to do the best that I can, because I usually, hear it once or twice, remember names, like if I can't pronounce them. Yeah, don't mind me. My brain's I've been in squirrel mind for the last few days, so high vibes. Makes you not read perfectly. Propriety is that perfectionist style which comes when a work is authoritatively constructed on approved principles. It arises from prescription, Greek, from usage, or from nature. From prescription, in the case of hyperthral edifices open to the sky in honor of Jupiter, lightning, the heaven, the sun, or the moon. For these are gods whose semblances and manifestations we behold before our very eyes in the sky when it is cloudless and bright. The temples of Minerva, Mars, and Hercules will be Doric, since the virile strength of these gods makes daintiness entirely inappropriate to their houses, and temples to Venus, Flora, Proserpine, Springwater, and the nymphs, the Corinthian order, will be found to have particular significance, because these are delicate divinities, and so it is rather slender outlines as flowers, leaves, and ornamental votives will lend propriety where it is due. The construction of temples of the iconic order to Juno, Diana, Father Bacchus, and the other gods of that kind will be in keeping with the middle position where they hold for the building of such will be an appropriate combination of severity of the Doric and the delicacy of the Corinthian. In describing the societies of Ionian artificers, I want to break this pen. Joseph de Costa declares that dynastic rites to have been founded upon the science of astronomy, which by initiates of this order was correlated to the builder's art. Wow, my brain is not working today. In various documents dealing with the origin of architecture are found hints to the effect that great buildings erected by these initiated craftsmen were based upon geometrical patterns derived from the constellations. Thus, a temple might be planned according to the constellation of Pegasus, or a court of judgment modeled after the constellation of the scales. The Dionysians evolved a peculiar code by which they were able to communicate with one another in the dark, and both the symbols and the terminology of their guild were derived in the main from the elements of architecture. While stigmatized as pagans by reason of their philosophic principles, it is noteworthy that these dynastic craftsmen were also universally employed in the erection of early Christian abbeys and cathedrals, whose stone even to this very day bear distinguishing marks and symbols cut into their surface by these illustrious builders. Among the ordinary carvings upon the front of great churches of the Old World are frequently found representations of compasses, squares, rules, mallets, and clusters of builders' tools, skillfully incorporated into mural decorations and even placed in the hands of the effigies of saints and prophets standing in the exalted niches. A great mystery was contained in the ancient portals of the Cathedral of Notre Dame, which were destroyed during the French Revolution, for among their carvings were numerous Rosicrucian and Masonic emblems, and according to the records preserved by alchemists who studied their bas reliefs, the secret processes for metallic transmutation was set forth in their grotesque yet most significant figures. The checkerboard floor upon which the modern Freemasonic Lodge stands is the old tracing board of the dynastic architects. And while the modern organization is no longer limited to workmen's guilds, it still preserves in its symbols the metaphysical doctrines of the ancient society of which it is presumably the outgrowth. The investigator of the origin of Freemasonic symbolism, who desires to trace the development of order through the ages, will find a practical suggestion in the following statement of Charles W. Hecklethorne. But considering that Freemasonry is a tree that roots of which spread through so many soils, it follows that traces thereof must be found in its fruit, that its language and ritual should retain much of the various sects and institutions it has passed through before arriving at their present state. And in Masonry, we meet with Indian, Egyptian, Jewish, and Christian ideals. Terms and symbols. The Roman collegia of skilled architects were apparently subdivision of the greater Ionian body, their principles and organization being practically identical with the older Ionian institution. It has been suspected that the Dionysians also profoundly influenced early Islamic culture, for part of their symbolism found its way into the mysteries of the dervishes. I know I'm pronouncing and butchering that. At one time, the Dionysians referred to themselves as sons of Solomon, and one of the most important of their symbols was the seal of Solomon, two intertraced triangles. This motif is frequently seen in conspicuous parts of Mohammedan mosques. The Knights Templar, who were suspected of anything and everything, are believed to have contacted these dynastic artifactors and have been introduced many of their symbols and doctrines into the medieval Europe. But Freemasonry most of all owes to the Dionysian cult the great mass of its symbols and rituals, which are related to the science of architecture. From these ancient and illustrious artisans, it also received the legacy of the unfinished temple of civilization, that vast, invisible structure upon which these initiated builders have labored continuously since the inception of their fraternity. This mighty edifice, which has fallen and been rebuilt time after time, but whose foundations remain unmoved, it is the true everlasting house of which the temple on the brow of Mount Moriah was but an impermanent symbol. Aside from the operative aspect of their order, the dynastic architects had a speculative philosophic code. Human society they considered as a rough and untrue ashlar, but lately chiseled from the quarry of elemental nature. This crude block was the true object upon which these skilled craftsmen labored, polishing it, squaring it, and with the aid of the fine carvings, transforming it into a miracle of beauty. While mystics release their souls from the bondage of matter by meditation, and philosophers found their keenest joy in the profundities of thought, these master workmen achieved liberation from the wheel of life and death by learning to swing their hammers with same rhythm that moves the swirling forces of the cosmos. They venerated the deity under the guise of a great architect and master craftsman, who was ever gouging rough ashlars from the fields of space and truing them into the universe. The Dionysians affirmed constructiveness to be the supreme expression of the soul, and attuning themselves with the ever-visible constructive, natural process going on around them. Believe immortality could be achieved by thus becoming a part of the creative agencies of nature. Interesting there. Solomon, the personification of universal wisdom. If I can see. The name Solomon may be divided into 3 syllables. Sol, on. Symbolizing light, glory, and truth collectively and respectively. The Temple of Solomon is therefore first of all the house of everlasting light. Its earthly symbol being the temple of stone on the brow of Mount Moriah. According to the mystery teachings, there are 3 temples of Solomon, as there are 3 grand masters, 3 witnesses, and 3 tabernacles of the transfiguration. The first temple is the grand house of the universe, in the midst of which sits the sun, Sol, upon his golden throne. The 12 signs of the zodiac as fellow craftsmen gather around their shining lord. 3 lights, the stellar, the solar, the lunar, illuminate the cosmic temple, accompanied by his retinue of planets, moons, and asteroids. This divine king, Sol-Amon, whose glory no earthly monarch shall ever equal, passes in stately pomp down the avenues of space, whereas Hiram represents the active physical light of the sun. Sol-Amon signifies its invisible but all-powerful spiritual and intellectual efficiency. The second symbolic temple is the human body, the little house made in the image of the great universal house. Know ye not, as the Apostle Paul, that ye are the temple of God, and that the Spirit of God dwelleth in you. Freemasonry within a temple of stone cannot be other than speculative, but Freemasonry within the living temple of the body is operative. The third symbolic temple is a solar house, an invisible structure, the comprehension of which is a supreme Freemasonic archaeum. The mystery of this intangible edifice is concealed under the allegory of the Soma Pushikon, or wedding garment, described by St. Paul, the robes of glory of the high priest of Israel, the yellow robe of the Buddhist monk, and the robe of blue and gold to which Albert Pike refers in his symbolism. The soul, constructed from an invisible fiery substance, a flaming golden metal, is cast by the master workman, Hiram Abiff, into the mold of clay, the physical body, and cold, the molten sea. The temple of the human soul is built by 3 master masons personifying wisdom, love, and service. And when constructed according to the law of life, the Spirit of God dwells in the holy place. Thereof, the solar temple is a true everlasting house. And he who can rise or cast it is a master mason indeed. The best informed Masonic writers have realized that Solomon's temple is a representation in miniature of the universal temple. Concerning this point, A.E. Waite, in a new encyclopedia of Freemasonry, writes, "It is a macrocosm in character, so that the temple is a symbol of the universe, a type of manifestation itself." Solomon, the spirit of universal illumination, mental, spiritual, and moral, and physical, is personified in the king of an earthly nation, while the great ruler by the name may be built a temple. He who considers story solely from its historical angle will never clear away the rubbish that covers the secret vaults. This rubbish is interpolated matter in the form of superficial symbols, allegories, and degrees, which have no legitimate part in the original Freemasonic mysteries. Concerning the loss of the true esoteric key to Masonic secrets, Albert Pike writes, "No one journeys now from the high place of Carbon to the threshing floor of Ormond the Gibbsite, nor has seen his master clothed in blue and gold, nor are apprentices and fellow crafts any longer paid at their respective columns, nor is the master's working tool the tracing board, nor does he use in his works chalk, charcoal, and the earthen vessel, nor does the apprentice, becoming a fellow craft, pass from the square to the compass, for the meanings of these phrases as symbols have been lost." According to the ancient rabbis, Solomon was an initiate of the mystery schools, and the temple which he built was actually a house of an initiation containing a mass of pagan philosophic and phallic emblems. The pomegranates, the palm-headed columns, the pillars before the door, the Babylonian cherubim, and the arrangement of the chambers and draperies all indicate the temple to have been patterned after the sanctuaries of Egypt and Atlantis. Isaac Meyer in the Kabbalah makes the following observation. The Pseudo-Clement of Rome writes, "God made man male and female. The male is Christ, the female the church. The Kabbalists call the Holy Spirit the mother, and the Church of Israel the daughter. Solomon engraved on the walls of his temple likeness of the male and female principles to commemorate this mystery. Such, it is said, were the figures of the cherubim. This was, however, not in obedience to the words of the Torah. They were symbolical of the upper and the spiritual, the former or the maker, positive or male, and the lower, the passive, the negative or female, formed or made by the first. Masonry came to northern Africa and Asia Minor from the lost continent of Atlantis, not under its present name, but rather under the general designation sun and fire worship. The ancient mysteries did not cease to exist when Christianity became the world's most powerful religion. Great Pon did not die. Freemasonry is the proof of his survival. The pre-Christian mysteries simply assumed the symbolism of a new faith, perpetuating through its emblems and allegories the same truths which have been the property of the wise since the beginning of the world. There is no true explanation, therefore, from Christian symbols, save that which is concealed within the pagan philosophy. Without the mysterious keys carried by the hierophants of the Egyptian, Brahmin, and Persian cults, the gates of wisdom cannot be opened. Consider with reverent spirit, therefore, the sublime allegory of the temple and its builders, realizing that beneath its literal interpretation lies a hidden royal secret. According to the Talmudic legends, Solomon understood the mysteries of the Kabbalah. He was also an alchemist and a necromancer, being able to control the demons, and from them and other inhabitants of the invisible worlds, he secured much of his wisdom. In his translations of The Key of Solomon the King, a work presumably setting forth the magical secrets gathered by Solomon and used by him in conjecturation of spirits, in which, according to Frank C. Higgins, contains many sidelights on Masonic initiatory rituals. S. L. McGregor Mathers recognizes the probability that King Solomon was a magician in the fullest sense of the word. I see no reason to doubt, he affirms, the tradition which assigns the authorship of the key to King Solomon. For among other, Josephus, the Jewish historian, especially mentions the magical works attributed to that monarch. This is confirmed by many Eastern traditions, and his magical skill is frequently mentioned in the Arabian Nights. Concerning Solomon's supernatural powers, Josephus writes in his 8th book of the Antiquities of the Jews, now the sagacity and wisdom which God had bestowed on Solomon was so great that he exceeded the ancients, and so much that he was no way inferior to the Egyptians, who are said to have been beyond all men in understanding. God also enabled him to learn that skill which expelled demons, which is a science useful and sedative to him. He composed such incantations also, by which distempers are alleviated. And he left behind him the manner of using exorcism, by which they drive away demons, so that they never return. And this method of cure is of great force unto this day. The medieval alchemists were convinced that King Solomon understood the secret process of Hermes, by means of which it was possible to multiply metals. Dr. Backstrom writes that the universal spirit, Hiram, assisted King Solomon to build his temple because Solomon, being wise in the wisdom of alchemy, knew how to control this incorporeal essence, and setting it to work for him, caused the invisible universe to supply him with the vast amounts of gold and silver, which, as most people believed, were mined by natural methods. The mysteries of the Islamic faith are now in the keeping of the dervishes, men who, renouncing worldliness, have withstood the test of 1,001 days of temptation. Jalauddin, the great Persian Sufic poet and philosopher, is accredited with having founded the order of Mevlevi, or the dancing dervishes, whose movements erotically signify the motions of the celestial bodies and esoterically result in the establishment of rhythm, which simulates the centers of the spiritual conscious within the dancer's body. According to the mystical canon, there are always on earth a certain number of holy men who are admitted to initiate communion with the deity. The one who occupies the highest position among his contemporaries is called the axis, or pole of his time. Subordinate to the axis are two holy beings who bear the title of the faithful ones, and who are assigned places on his right and left, respectively. Below there is a quartet of intermediate ones, and on successively lower planes are 5 lights, and 7 very good. The next rank is filled by 40 absent ones, and termed martyrs. When an axis quits this earthly existence, he is succeeded by the faithful one, and who has occupied the place at his right hand. For to these holy men, who also bear collective titles of lords of souls and directors, is committed a spiritual supremacy over mankind, far exceeding the temporal authority of earthly rulers. The axis is a mysterious individual who, unknown and unsuspected, mingles with mankind, and who, according to the tradition, has his favorite seat upon the roof of the Kaaba. J.P. Brown in the Dervishes gives a description of these master souls. Interesting. Freemasonry's priceless heritage. The sanctum sanctorum of Freemasonry is ornamented with the Gnostic jewels of 1,000 ages. Its rituals ring with the divinely inspired words of seers and sages. 100 religions have brought their gifts of wisdom to its altar. Arts and sciences unnumbered have contributed to its symbolism. Freemasonry is a worldwide university teaching the liberal arts and sciences of the soul to all who will hearken its words. Its chairs are seats of learning, and its pillars uphold an arc of universal education. Its trestle boards are inscribed with the eternal verities of all ages, and upon those who comprehend its sacred depths has dawned the realization that within the Freemasonic mysteries lie hidden the long-lost arcana sought by all people since the genesis of human reason. The philosophic power of Freemasonry lies in its symbols, its priceless heritage from the mystery schools of antiquity. In a letter to Robert Freck Gold, Albert Pike writes, It began to shape itself to my intellectual vision into something more imposing and majestic, solemnly mysterious and grand. It seemed to me like the pyramids in their loneliness, in whose yet undiscovered chambers may be hidden. For the enlightenment of coming generations, the sacred books of the Egyptians, so long lost to the world, like the Sphinx, half buried in the desert. In its symbolism, which and its spirit of brotherhood are essence. Freemasonry is more ancient than any of the world's living religions. It has the symbols and doctrines which older than itself Zarathustra inculcated, and it seemed to me a spectacle sublime, yet pitiful, the ancient faith of our ancestors holding out to the world its symbols, once so eloquent, and mutely in vain asking for an interpreter. And so I came at last to see that the true greatness and majesty of Freemasonry consists in its proprietorship of that in its other symbols, and that its symbolism is its soul. Though the temples of Thebes and Karnak be now but majestic heaps of broken and time-battered stone, the spirit of Egyptian philosophy still marches triumphant through the centuries, though the rock-hewn sanctuaries of the ancient Brahmins be now deserted and their carvings crumbled into dust. Still the wisdom of the Vedas endures. Though the oracles be silenced and the house of the mysteries be now but rows of ghostly columns, still shrines the spiritual glory of Hellas with luster undiminished. Though Zoroaster, Hermes, Pythagoras, Plato, and Aristotle are now but dim memories in a world once rocked by the transcendency of their intellectual genius, still in the mystic temple of Freemasonry, these god men live again in their words and symbols, and the candidate passing through the initiations feel himself face to face with these illuminated hierophants of days long past. So I do apologize. That was rough for me. My brain isn't quite functioning on a spectrum of consistency. The journey continues for me. So I hope you guys enjoyed that or got something out of it. There's a lot I would like to say, but I'm just going to hold my... The colors, the symbolism that we see in our world today. I'm not necessarily against some of their principles. I take into the consideration that everything has polarity here in this reality, and that all is of source, both positive and negative, black, white. it's some purposes were used for good and some were not. And we have to come to neutrality to see beyond the BS and see what did work and what can be carried into future, because instead of making things secret, the truth is being revealed. So we don't need all these symbols, and things should just be free for all to understand and learn, and hopefully moving up into higher densities and dimensions that don't have free will or are not bound by polarity. These signs and symbols can actually be worth something. Maybe. Who knows? But I'm going to leave it there. Sending each and every one of you love, light, compassion, grace, shielding, and protection energy. Please be safe, be seen. Things should be sort of normalized in life right now. And I keep saying that, and then some freaking monumental shit happens. Unfortunately, Morgan did have to be put down, and that kind of took a few days. And now I'm rearranging my house. Now that she's not here, because I don't have a old lady mulling through the house. So it's a process. I'll get there. But I want to thank all of you for your support. Please check out my website, AllyKatkreations211.com. And if you are in the Indiana area, Northwest Indiana, June 1st, I'm going to be at the Maryville Library branch doing a art show, showing off and selling some of my pieces. So if you happen to be in the area, come and check me out. Come and say hi. I will also be looking for more vending areas and potentials around this region, as long as it's not winter and they can drive in the summer with the windows down and not have to worry about snow. I'm going to try to get some events going. So if you're in the area or you're visiting in the area, let me know. Come and say hi. So until the next one, guys, thank you so much for your support and appreciation and compassion that this was a really rough reading. I don't mean to, but it does happen. So until the next one, guys, have a great day and stay neutral. Bye for now.